Hi everybody, welcome to this webinar on stress and how to manage it. I'm delighted that you've managed to find the time to join us for this webinar, and I hope that you'll find it really useful. I'm Dr. Sally Norton, and as a medical doctor I'm all too aware of the impact stress can have on our well-being. And you probably don't even realise how big a role it plays in our weight control and our health in general. Plus, of course, it also affects our safety on the roads. We all know how road rage can turn seemingly sensible people into dangerous drivers. Stress isn't always obvious to you or your loved ones and colleagues. It may show itself in various different ways, in fact. It may show itself by strained relationships, emotional outbursts, loss of motivation, lack of concentration, perhaps a change in your eating or sleeping patterns, or poor memory or negative feelings. There's all sorts of ways in which stress can manifest itself. And understanding that these issues can be a result of poorly managed stress is the first step to overcoming them. So let's look at stress and how to manage it better. Now, as an NHS consultant surgeon, I'm pretty qualified to talk about stress because, believe me, there is nothing more stressful than being paged out of bed at 3 in the morning because someone's bleeding to death and you have to sort it out, or telling a young parent that they're terminally ill, or working a 48-hour shift with no sleep, or even operating on someone weighing 30 stone because they'll die if you can't do weight loss surgery for them, because that's what my job has involved many times over the years. So I'm pretty familiar with stress, and I know how badly I've dealt with it in the past and how badly many of my colleagues still deal with it. Doctors, in fact, have a high rate of suicide, alcoholism and more, and I'm sure a large part of that is due to the stress. And of course, I'm also dealing with the effects of stress on my patients every day. Things like obesity, heart disease, mental health issues, and a whole lot more may be rooted in stress. But I also know how stress can motivate you, fill you with adrenaline and ensure you do save that life or manage a work deadline or juggle family crises. Sometimes it can be a powerful stimulus to help you achieve great things. So stress isn't all bad if we can manage it right. But first of all, what is stress exactly? Stress is a natural response to a challenging situation. It's our fight or flight response that's inbuilt. It's what helped our cavemen ancestors fight off or outrun that lion. When we're exposed to acute stress, numerous rapid changes occur in the body. Adrenaline is released to increase our strength and ensure rapid reactions. Cortisol is released to increase our blood pressure to help pump blood to where it's needed. It also raises sugar levels in our blood to give us the energy we need there and then. Blood is shunted away from areas like our gut where it isn't immediately needed and is instead sent to our muscles where it is needed. Our kidney function slows too. For the same reasons erectile function or other sex responses are lost. We haven't got time for sex if the lion's approaching. Instead, our brain becomes alert and ready for action. We're pumped up and ready to face the challenge, or run like hell from it. Our body is a very clever thing. But if that stress is chronic, it's very different. Our body isn't as well equipped for that situation. Those changes it makes in response to acute stress aren't fully utilised, but they aren't properly switched off either because the stress we are feeling continues. So those positive changes we just talked about then start to have negative effects because they're prolonged and they just aren't used in the way that was intended. So you may well have noticed your pulse is often racing or irregular. You may find that your breathing is shallow and sweating is increased. Blood pressure stays high. It doesn't drop back down to normal as it should. And the cortisol hormone that raised our blood sugar for a temporary energy burst now keeps our blood sugar high, which can lead to insulin resistance, perhaps even diabetes, as well as laying down fat around our waist, which raises the risk of heart attack and stroke. Cortisol also causes hair loss. Have you noticed that your hair's thinning or receding faster than you would like? The immune system is depressed too. That's why you always seem to come down with a cold when it's the busiest time at work. Or worse still, and this has happened to me, when you've been crazily working to get ahead before that much needed holiday, and then the day you go away you come down with a virus that spoils your fun. How often has that happened to you? Your brain is kept in a state of high alert. You feel wired, you're unable to switch off, and that leads to poor sleep. And then feeling tired the next day, you may reach for more and more caffeine, and that just creates a vicious cycle. The blood supply that was temporarily reduced to your intestines may leave you with digestive problems. You remember that gut-wrenching pain you sometimes get with stress? That may be the result of that. And chronic stress can mean sexual health deteriorates in both men and women. Testosterone levels even drop. In fact, you might be horrified to hear that testicles can even shrink, and relationships can deteriorate as a result of that problem with sexual relationships. So it all adds up to a serious situation. In fact, a study of over 30,000 people showed that people who were stressed had an increased risk of dying in the following year than those who weren't stressed. So that's all a bit gloomy. Sorry about that. But the good news is that the increased risk of death in stressed people only held true for those who believed that stress was bad for your health. In other words, if we react to stress in a positive rather than a negative way, it isn't necessarily harmful. How can that be? There's some really interesting studies on this. A negatively stressful experience causes the heart rate to rise, the heart to pound, but at the same time it narrows the blood vessels to the heart, which limits the blood supply to the heart just at the time it most needs extra blood. No wonder that stress can cause heart attacks. But a positively viewed stress doesn't cause that same blood vessel narrowing, allowing blood to get to where it's needed, boosting the heart function as well as getting blood to the brain, the muscles, or wherever we need the oxygen and energy. So, in other words, if we can view the stress in a more positive way, then we don't get that blood vessel contraction, we can get lots of blood circulating, it can actually do us some good. So stress can be good or bad. We need to try to manage stress to maximise the benefits and minimise the bad things. So how do we do that? What changes a situation from stressful to motivating? Well, most stress and resilience training that I've seen is all about consciously reframing the situation, taking 5 minutes out to breathe and focus, and then taking a fresh look at the problem to view it in a different light. And that's important, I agree, but it's also quite difficult, and it's not entirely natural, because they've forgotten about something really important. Our first line stress response is largely immediate and subconscious, as I've shown you already. It's governed by our body, and it's not something we can control consciously. Our cavemen ancestors, when faced with a lion bearing down on them, didn't stop to consider what positives they could find or take some deep breaths to relax themselves. They ran like hell. It wasn't a thought-out decision. It was an innate, immediate survival response from their body. They didn't use conscious thought at all. As a doctor, I'm a great believer that the body is better than we are at coping, so I think we're missing a trick if we don't optimise that early subconscious effort by our body. So I want to give you some practical ways to deal with stress. It's not all just touchy-feely, fluffy stuff about breathing. I want to help you to help your body to improve the way it responds on that innate level. Things that mean you deal better with stress without even having to think about it. How you react to stress in a subconscious way. Then later I'll show you how to manage stress consciously too, once your body has given it its best shot subconsciously. I hope all that's making sense. So first of all, we just need to make sure that our body and our subconscious mind are mentally and physically up to the job. That's the way that we're going to be able to deal with stress better on the immediate front. So how we're going to be able to deal with it better subconsciously. If we're strong mentally and physically, we won't find situations so stressful in the first place. You know, we all really know how easy it is to spin out of control when we've been up half the night, or we're hungover, or we've got a stinking cold. We just can't cope as well because we're not feeling as strong. And when we're strong, we may actually get a buzz from challenging situations rather than be terrified by them, which also means we won't get the adverse health effects. But of course, there are times when stress can't easily be viewed as positive, and in those situations too, you can cope better with it if you're fit and well. So this is the only logical place to start as far as I'm concerned. So what makes us strong enough to cope with any stress that life may throw at us? How can we ensure that we're strong enough to fight stress or use it to our advantage? It's simple, it may seem like common sense, but it's actually surprisingly effective. We can improve how stress affects us and how we respond to stress by how much and how well we sleep, by the way we eat, by how fit and active we are, and by keeping a healthy weight, because stress is very much linked to weight gain. Stress can cause weight gain, and conversely, weight gain causes stress. So even if we don't feel it mentally, our body feels the stress of the extra pounds. And with 2/3 of us overweight or obese, that's really relevant. So let's look at these areas briefly first, and then we can look at how to manage stress on a more conscious level too. So a very easy way to improve your resilience in dealing with stress on a subconscious and conscious level is to improve your sleep. As a Vavista customer, you have free access to our Sleep Better module, which helps you improve the quantity and quality of your sleep. So check that out. That's free for you to use whenever you want to. So many of us overdo things, whether at work or at home, and it's our sleep that often suffers. Maybe we don't allow enough time for the 7 to 9 hours that we really need. Or maybe our brains are whirring late into the night and give us restless, poor quality sleep. But studies show that a poor night's sleep affects our weight, our physical health, and our mental health too. So that's compounding the effect of stress and making those stresses hard to tackle. But getting a good night's sleep of at least 7 to 9 hours doesn't just rest you, it allows really vital processes to take place. These include storing the important events of the day into long-term memory, clearing out the trivia that you don't need to remember, and importantly, your REM or dream sleep boosts creativity and problem solving, making it easier to find solutions to stressful situations, sometimes even while you sleep. Let me just repeat that because it's really important. Sleep can improve memory for important things, clear out unimportant facts, and improve problem solving. These are all vital in reducing stress. And all of these important things occur whilst we are completely unaware, fast asleep, but only as long as we allow ourselves enough time for that good quality sleep. So I hope you can see that getting a really good night's sleep could make a huge difference to your stress levels. How can you ensure you sleep better? There are a few ways that you can really make a difference actually to the quality of your sleep. You might not be aware of it because you might be sleeping a reasonable length of time, but actually the different stages of sleep can be really helped by getting good quality sleep. So you can do that by keeping your bedroom cool around 16 to 18 degrees centigrade, and consider a hot bath before bed, as getting out of the bath and into a cool bedroom lowers your body temperature, and having a body temperature that drops helps you sleep. It's a little bit of a surprise really, because most people think that if they're nice and snuggly warm, they'll sleep better, but actually having a drop in temperature helps you sleep. It's really important too to avoid screens and other blue lights after 8 p.m. and dim lights around the house to mimic the natural daylight dropping in the evenings. Keep a regular bedtime. Try and go to bed 8 hours before you need to wake up so that you don't need to use an alarm to wake up, and try and keep to that routine even at weekends, because if you try and make up for lost sleep during the week by sleeping longer at weekends, I'm afraid that doesn't really work. It's important to avoid coffee, energy drinks, chocolate and other caffeine after lunch, because the effects of caffeine can hang around for 6 hours or more, affecting your sleep. And I'm sorry to say, but alcohol and sleeping tablets don't actually work. You may think you sleep better, but your sleep quality is poor, so they don't actually achieve what you're trying to achieve. And then finally, eating late is also bad. It keeps your heart rate and your body temperature high, which makes deep sleep less easy. Not to mention that unpleasant acid reflux or heartburn, which affects many people who eat late at night. So if you can try and really focus on improving all of those things, you will find your sleep is considerably better, and that is going to help your stress levels. And finally, if you're a snorer who keeps your partner awake, or is even waking yourself up by snoring at night and then feeling tired and falling asleep during the day, you may have something called sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is a condition that's more common if you're overweight, and it can cause diabetes, high blood pressure and other problems. So if you're struggling with those sorts of things, talk to your GP, because sleep apnea can be treated and you'll sleep better and feel much healthier as a result. So that's sleep, and as I say, if you can tackle that, then you will suddenly find that life feels a whole lot stressful, even if your stresses are still there. Now the next thing that I want to suggest is seeing if you can eat any better. Now as a Vavista customer, you also have free access to our Eat Better module, which helps you make small changes to what you eat to optimise your health, weight and well-being. So check that one out too, and also keep an eye out for upcoming webinars on all aspects of healthy eating. Don't underestimate the power of eating well when you're tackling stress. What are the most important things to consider? Well, there's lots of different ways in which you can improve the way you eat, but let's just tackle a few of them today. You can find out more in the Eat Better module if you want to, but if you can work your way towards these things that I'm going to talk about today, you'll be doing lots to help your stress and health. So the first thing I'd like to suggest is that you reduce unhealthy carbs, especially sugar. Now, carbohydrates are a type of fuel for our body. We need fuel to give us energy to function, obviously. Carbohydrates are one sort of fuel, protein and fats are the other fuels that we use for energy. But carbs and proteins and fats, for that matter, can be good or bad. Processed carbs, like the carbs that you find in white flour, white pasta, white rice, potatoes and all the products made from them, just get broken down rapidly in our body to the ultimate processed carb, which is sugar. And rapid breakdown to sugar gives us a quick energy boost, I admit, but the problem is it's rapidly followed by a sugar crash, which leaves us hungry again and looking for more sugary or processed carbs to boost energy levels again, and then the vicious cycle continues. What's more, sugar, either in its basic form or formed as these processed carbs rapidly break down, causes a rise in levels of a hormone or chemical messenger called insulin. Insulin helps to regulate the sugar in our bloodstream, but it also promotes fat storage, making it difficult for us to lose those excess pounds. So cut down on sugar, and without those sugar spikes and energy slumps, your mood will be much more stable and your sleep quality will be better, which will help your stress levels too. So break that vicious cycle by cutting back on processed carbs. Avoid the cakes, the biscuits, the crisps, the fried fast foods, the sugary drinks and more. Instead, try to cut down on your sweet tooth by gradually removing sugar from your diet, because sugar doesn't provide anything other than empty calories. What you need to do is focus instead on healthy carbs like whole grains, wholemeal bread, brown pasta, brown rice, that sort of thing, or the healthy carbs that we find in veg, in pulses like beans, peas and lentils. But try to restrict even the healthier carbs to 1 or 2 meals a day rather than grazing all day on them, because that will allow your insulin to drop down to normal levels through much of the day, and that will help weight loss and reduce the metabolic problems that can lead to diabetes, heart disease and more. Check out our Eat Better module if you want more information on that. In fact, my next tip is to avoid processed foods in general, not just the carbs, but any processed foods, packaged foods, microwave meals. Rarely do they have the same health benefits as cooking from fresh with natural products. Cooking or preparing yourself means you can avoid the added sugar, the salt, all the different chemicals and unhealthy fats that are part and parcel of much of the processed food out there. Lacking in nutrients, they aren't giving your body or brain the fuel it needs to function efficiently, and without you even noticing, that affects the way that you respond to day-to-day stresses. Instead, fill up on good quality meat, fish, healthy fats like olive oil, nuts, and plenty of veg with a bit of fruit. That way you'll get all the nutrients you need to tackle stress in a positive way. And don't think you haven't got the time or the ability to cook yourself. There are plenty of super quick, super easy recipes out there, so give some a go and build it up slowly if you need to. You'll really notice the benefit. My next tip is don't snack. Now, our cavemen and women ancestors didn't snack all day from first thing in the morning until late in the evening. But we've been told that eating little and often and snacking helps keep our blood sugar stable and helps our weight control. But actually, that's not good advice. As I said earlier, it keeps our insulin levels high all day, which increases fat storage, increases our resistance to insulin, and that can predispose to problems with diabetes and all sorts of other conditions like that. We end up eating our meals, snacking in between, and often adding extra TV snacks before we collapse into bed. And as I've mentioned before, eating late into the evening doesn't help sleep, and that doesn't help us manage our stress. So snacking's not good, and at the very least we should avoid it. But science is now showing that time-restricted eating is an added benefit to health and weight loss. What's time-restricted eating? Well, we were always told that we need a good breakfast. In fact, that has recently been shown not to hold true for many people. Some people don't feel hungry first thing and shouldn't feel they have to eat. And then we also end up eating late at night, which, as I've just said, makes sleep worse and stress too. So instead, don't feel the need to eat as soon as you get up, as your body has got its own natural cortisol hormone spike, which mobilises energy to get us going first thing, even if we don't have anything to eat. Listen to your body and eat when you need to. And that could be mid-morning, it could even be later. And then try to avoid eating late at night too. Instead, have your last meal no later than 8 p.m, ideally a bit earlier. Then your body gets lots of time to recover before you eat again the next day. In fact, studies have shown that eating the same number of calories in a shorter time window, perhaps between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. or whatever suits you, will help control your blood sugar and your weight, and that can help you manage stress better too. So I hope those eating better tips will help you as well. They should get your blood sugar better controlled, they should help your weight, and they should just generally help stabilise things, and all of that is good for stress. But finally, let's look at moving a bit more as well. As a Vavista customer, you also have free access to our Move Better module, and that helps you make small changes to your activity, whether it's formal exercise or just in small ways that you can easily make part of everyday life. And science has shown that increasing your activity can help you in numerous ways. It can reduce depression. In fact, it's as good or sometimes better than antidepressants in some cases. It reduces cortisol. We've already talked about cortisol. It's a chemical messenger that goes up when we're chronically stressed, as you may remember. And cortisol contributes to many of the ill effects of stress, including weight gain around the middle and problems with our sugar control. As a result of decreasing cortisol and in various other ways, exercise can improve our weight and health. And of course, the increased blood flow to our brain keeps it functioning really well, increasing our creativity, which may help us find solutions to stressful situations that we find ourselves in. And then vigorous exercise releases endorphins. These are the happy chemicals that can give us a real high and keep us coming back for more exercise, even if we didn't feel like exercising when we started. It's a legal high that has us feeling much more positive. Whilst government recommendations for our weekly activity levels are quite daunting, to be honest, anything is better than nothing. So just find an activity you enjoy and just do it. And you don't have to go to the gym, you don't have to play sports, but just try and build more activity into every day by using the stairs rather than the lift or escalator. Perhaps consider cycling to work instead of driving or getting the bus. And you can make a point of getting up and moving around at work rather than being chained to your desk. Building exercise into everyday activities makes it easier to keep to. So, sleep better, eat better and move better. That's how to be stronger to tackle stress on the subconscious level. But if you've done everything you possibly can to help your body deal with stress subconsciously and you're still feeling under stress, what then? You need to know how to manage it. You need to know how to tackle it so that it doesn't drag you down. We need to ensure that we keep good friends, families and colleagues around us to support us when we're under stress. And we also need to know that it's okay to get help if stress is starting to affect our physical or mental health. So let's look at managing stress first, in particular these 3 ways. We need to look at reframing the stress, we need to look at managing the symptoms and dealing with the stressor itself. So remember I explained that when people were under stress, their heartbeat pounded and the blood vessels to their heart narrowed. But when the stress was viewed as positive, the blood vessels didn't contract. The response was more like the response you get in happiness or excitement when the blood vessels dilate up. So the first thing to do if you're in a stressful situation is try to see the positives in it wherever you can. Try and reframe it. Think of it as exciting rather than stressful. So use a different language, challenge rather than stress, excitement rather than fear. Think of what you can get out of any stressful situation. There's always something you can learn from it, however difficult it seems. Remember the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger? Getting through difficult times gives you survival and resilience skills that can stand you in good stead for the future. So any stressful situation can make you stronger. Don't let stress have a negative effect on your heart. Think positive thoughts and this will help your heartbeat settle down and your blood flow increase to your heart as well as your brain, which may help you find a solution to the stress. And then the next thing to do is to tackle the symptoms. If you can't reframe your stress because it's just too terrible, or while you are learning to reframe it, then learn to better manage the negative effects, the racing heart, the anxiety. Learn to breathe. Seriously, it sounds a little bit fluffy, but it does help. Just try practicing in a traffic jam when you're getting stressed and you'll see what I mean. Take a few moments to focus on deep and slow breathing. It will help your heart rate slow and it will help your stress levels diminish. So think of things like a long walk or a bath, some music, sharing the problem with friends. All of these things can help reduce the effects of stress. But you can take it a step further. There's a lot of evidence to show that meditation and mindfulness can help people with weight and other health issues related to stress because they help lower your cortisol. So it's really important that you think about doing this if you want to manage your stress really well. Ideally, if you can, aim for 20 minutes twice a day of meditation. It's something that is very alien to a lot of people. I know I struggle with it myself, but actually it really does make a difference. And there are plenty of apps out there to help you, things like Headspace or Calm. So you can sign up for those on your phone and get a little bit of guidance with learning how to meditate. You may feel uncomfortable with this. I suspect many people would, but more and more people are starting to learn the benefits of things like meditation. And the effects on stress, positivity, creativity and health make it well worth persisting with. And then the next thing I'd recommend is dealing with the stresses themselves. And the best thing to do, I think, here is to start small. So much of our day-to-day stress is caused by small niggles that mount up and wear us down. They make the important things more difficult to deal with. If there's a day-to-day habit that's causing you stress, change it. Perhaps you keep losing your keys and you end up late for work. Well, just put a hook by the front door and hang them up when you get home so you don't lose them. Or perhaps you can never find a clean shirt to wear in the morning. Lay out your outfit the night before. Fed up with traffic jams? Can you walk or cycle? All of these things sound trivial, but they add up. And then the stress levels add up too. So if you can tackle them, the stress levels will go down. Tackle those trivial stresses now. And then you'll feel more clear-headed and capable of tackling the bigger stresses. Money concerns, relationship problems, body confidence issues or more can cripple us. The problems can seem so large we see no solution. Research shows one of the biggest contributors to stress and depression is a feeling of lack of control. When it seems we have no power to influence our situation, our response can be to give up. People can then withdraw from social support or become so irritable that no one wants to be with them anyway. Add to that a lack of sleep, turning to poor food and alcohol for comfort, and stress can turn into a downward spiral of mental, physical and social decline, which isn't good. Even on a lesser scale, those bigger worries can spoil your day-to-day enjoyment of life, so tackle them now. But how? The most important thing is to regain control over your situation. If you've got a bigger problem for which there seems no obvious solution, start to break it down until you find something you can do. Just keep on breaking it down into smaller and smaller components because there will be something that you can actually tackle. Not only will this make an insurmountable issue seem easier to tackle, it will help you identify the first step to fixing it, and it will give you back control over the situation, which is key. So rather than worrying about money, for example, perhaps decide the first step is to print off and sit down with your bank statements and look at your incoming and outgoing expenses. That's a simple thing that you can do there and then. From there, you could make an appointment perhaps with your bank, or you could identify one or two small areas you could save in. Once you've made that small step, then the next step seems easier to do. So start with something really small. Make that first step, however small it seems, and you will feel back in some sort of control. And the more tiny steps you take, the smaller that stress will gradually become and the better you will feel about it. It's also really important to keep a good team around you. People who are stressed tend to cut themselves off just at the time when they need help and support. It may just be moral support, but it may be possible to get practical help too, perhaps by delegating some of that stressful workload. But even just talking through stressful situations with others can help you get perspective, perhaps even solutions. Remember that old adage that a problem shared is a problem halved. Positivity, motivation and resilience is contagious, so surrounding yourself with positive people, whether at home or at work, has been shown to significantly reduce stress across the board. Happy relationships are a strong predictor of health, mental and physical. In fact, oxytocin, which is the cuddle hormone, which is released when we're in happy relationships, is also released at times of stress, prompting you to seek out support. And it also benefits the heart, helping it to recover from adverse effects of stress. So actually getting a hug next time you're stressed is really helpful. Another interesting study tracked 1,000 adults and asked how much stress they had in the past year. But it also asked them how much time they'd spent helping people in their community. Now, excessive stress raised the risk of dying early, as we've heard before, but not in those people who'd spent some of their time helping others. And it seems, therefore, that however stressed we are, if we can find time to help others too, it reduces our own stress. Perhaps by preventing ourselves becoming too obsessed with our own worries, perhaps it's by connecting with others, perhaps it's from the warm feeling we get from helping other people. So however stressed you get, try to find the time to reach out to other people and understand the stresses and the problems that they've got too, and you can help each other. And finally, don't be afraid to ask for help if you feel as though stress is getting on top of you and anything you try is failing. Or maybe you feel so overwhelmed that you can't motivate yourself to try any of the tips I've given you in this webinar. Speak to sympathetic friends, family or work colleagues, or speak to your family doctor who is actually very used to helping people under stress. It's all too common, unfortunately. And of course there are confidential chat lines too that you can call at any time of the day or night if you're feeling under a lot of stress. If you want to get into physical shape, it's completely acceptable to get help from a personal trainer. But we don't have the same attitude towards our mental health, and yet it's equally, if not more, important. If we can have personal trainers to keep our bodies fit, why not life coaches to keep our minds fit? Consider getting yourself some sessions with a counsellor, life coach or similar to help you reframe or manage stress. It's well worthwhile. And it doesn't necessarily have to cost anything. If you're struggling and you speak to your GP, you may be able to get some help with counselling sessions or similar in your local community. I really hope that this webinar has given you a better understanding of stress and the ways it can impact your mind and body. I hope too that it's provided you with some insight on the many things that you can do today to help you manage stress, perhaps even benefit from it because, as I said, not all stress is bad. You can find out more about looking after your mental health in our Think Better module, free to Vavista customers, and our other modules will help you improve and protect your physical health too, so check them out when you've got the time. And watch out for further webinars on subjects that we feel are important for your well-being, because here at Vavista we want to keep you healthy and happy.